Busy, how about you? Job. I can say fine. Well, commercial motion type of thing. Yeah. Okay. We they're starting to mobilize this commercial 6 takes quite a while to build pressure and bunch of questions. So we've been going through it. So we probably to get up to pressure. Yeah, because we're doing a lot of, it's not a big size building. That'll pump forever. Yeah. I mean, but what you find takes longer than you want. Pressure, once you travel, you got to pump through it. Supply test pressure. They were the end right through. Up to 200 different water balance. Do your test, so you just spin up the surface, the process.
Yeah. Okay, I got 17:30. I will ask before we get started if everybody would silence their electronic devices, or at least I know in the back, Jerry, turn your radio down to a minimum volume. And we'll begin with flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first order of business on our agenda is the interim fire chief interviews. Say candidate number 1. That'll be me. That'll be you. Okay. And since we haven't met, sir, you are?
My name is Roy Hart, spelled H-A-R-I.
Okay. Let me make sure I have the right packet out here.
Well, the other Roy might be more impressive, so maybe just look at his and I'll speak as it.
Take a second, to shake your hand.
What's that?
Ryan Welby.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. That's all everyone. You are. I'm awesome. I'm your pleasure. Yeah, everyone, Kelly, nice to meet you.
Yeah, let's just go in order, start with you down there.
All right, can you tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally?
Sure. Born and raised in Salem area. I got into public service on my 17th birthday with the County of Marion. And as part of their training, I had to do this new thing called EMT. And as a result of that, I had to ride with a fire district. My first call I ever wrote, I delivered a baby. And I said, how do you get to do this? And they said, well, you join up as a volunteer and we'll take you, which I did. And I'll never forget, they said, they'll take anybody, so you're in. So, either a compliment or not. And started there in 1979, got hired full-time as a firefighter paramedic in 1984. Worked my way up through the department, became the chief in July of 2000. While I was chief there, I built the regional training center at Brooks. It's now owned by Chemeketa Community College, and 5 of their fire stations. Department of 85 square miles, 100 volunteers at the time. Now they're down to about 25, and 40 paid people. And now they've changed roles, a lot more paid people. But it was a full service, like you guys, fire, ambulance. We did everything. Because I started at 17, I was Tier 1 PERS. On my 47th birthday, the PERS people said, hey, you can leave with full benefits and go. I said, why would I do that? I'm the fire chief and everything's going good. And they said, leave while everything's going good and get a job in another state and double your income, state that doesn't have income tax. So I took a job as the fire chief in Mount Vernon, Washington, after I had retired from Marion County on a Friday and started on Monday morning in Mount Vernon, Washington. That's a city of 35,000 people, three fire stations, mostly paid. They had a handful of volunteers. And I told the mayor that hired me I'd be there for 5 years. 9 years later, I finally told that mayor, I gotta go. My parents were getting pretty elderly and retired from there and came back to Salem. And boy, it hadn't been, I don't know, a couple of months retired, and the Almsville Fire District terminated their contract with their fire chief, and they came to get me and said, through SDAO kind of a deal, and said, hey, would you fill in here for maybe up to a year? 6 years later, on August 14th, just a couple months ago, I finally had tickets to Brazil, and I just gotta go. I mean, it's gonna go on forever. So I retired out of there. Literally on my last day of work, I got notified by someone, I can't remember who, they said, hey, Columbia River Fire might have a need for an interim chief. And so SDAO got involved, and that's why I'm standing here. I have a small farm, raise cattle, have 35 acres of hazelnuts, and we just got done harvesting those. Yeah, that's about the extent of it.
Awesome.
So why do you think you'd be a good fit for the position of interim fire chief for Columbia River Fire and Rescue?
I just think it's a challenge that I love to deal with. I'm done running calls, the excitement of delivering babies and pulling people out of cars, kind of long gone for me, but I think that administratively, I do very well as a fire chief, and I fixed a couple of kind of broken departments so far. And what I see here is that everything on the street is working pretty well. It doesn't sound like you have any problem for the rubber meets the road. I'm not reading about members of the public in here demanding why it took you 30 minutes to get to a call or why their house burned down. It seems like it's more administrative issues, and that's a challenge that I would like to take on. And what I'm reading, again, I have not dug into your issues here. I just read the news stories and all of that. And I think it's something that I would look forward to the challenge of fixing.
Rick, you kind of answered one of the questions I was gonna ask, so, what do you know about Columbia River Fire and Rescue?
Well, I can recite what I read. Pretty large fire district, geographically 185 square miles, pretty good size. You cover a few cities here. You get a combination of paid and volunteers, and I did notice, I believe it's your volunteer coordinator vehicle. It's advertising for volunteers, all marked up. That's pretty cool. See a sandwich board down here on the sidewalk looking for volunteers. So you guys are very actively looking for, I mean, you're not shy about what you need in the community. But that's not from anything I read. That's just from observations of looking what's going on here. So it's not like a lot of trouble departments are backed into a corner, and just kind of, you're not doing that. You're out there making the public aware that you're here and you need volunteers. That's what's going on with that. But I understand you went through some issues with the negotiations, and that's still going on. I understand the administrative issues, and I kind of put in my proposal, I don't want to be a part of the past. I want to move the organization ahead. And so, those things I read, I definitely think I can deal with. I don't see anything in there that, other than you might have a huge financial surprise. Other than that, I don't see anything in there that, and this is a giant disaster that we can't fix. We can't, as long as the organization is unified, looking in the same direction, we can make this work here.
Go ahead, Austin. All right, if offered the job, what strategies would you employ during the first month on the job?
So I think getting everybody in the same room, for starters. I don't care if it's the newest guy, the most senior people, but there's several things that everybody has to speak with a unified voice. Whether all of us, we all live in a bubble of our friends, and your friends are telling you everything's good. But I can probably assure you that right now, if you ask for bond money, it would get voted down, because they probably don't trust what happened with money, right? And I don't know the details, but I can just tell you that the public as a whole probably going to say, not until we get a few things fixed. So my strategy, first of all, is get the entire organization speaking with one voice. This is what we're doing. These are the actions we're taking. Every step that we take for best practices and changes to make sure that whatever happened doesn't happen again, everybody's going to know what those are. The firefighters, the public, the board, so that when people come in here to a public meeting and start grilling you, you can answer them and say, hey, this is what we decided to do. This is how we're going to prevent this. That's X, Y, Z. So unified voice for starters. And then I think I put kind of in my plan there, make sure all the policies and procedures so that it's not the Columbia River Fire Board doing their own thing. It said, hey, we get this direction from SDAO or from whatever you got it from, legal counsel, and this is the direction we're following. And we're not gonna go out and do this. We're not gonna allow this. We're gonna do these things. So making sure, I guess, all the ducks are in a row and everybody knows exactly what we're doing. That's I think the initial strategy.
Okay, my question is, what do you consider the most vital aspect of a fire district or department?
I didn't quite get that.
What do you consider the most vital aspect of a fire district or department?
The most vital aspect. I think we have to always be there when people call. The people don't care what color the truck is. They don't care if it's male, female. They don't care what. We gotta be there in that whatever time you guys have set. If you set a 5-minute response time, then their expectation is we'll be there. We'll be knocking on their door and we'll know what to do. So well-trained cadre of people that's always there. If we're out on calls, we better have a backup plan to have somebody else move up. And I'm thinking you guys do that and talking to some of the neighbors and stuff. Sounds like you got scappoos where they all are down here and a few other places that are, kind of helping you out here. But I think the public expectation is we pay a lot of money for these people. When we ring the bells, we expect them to be there. We expect them to be well-equipped, well-trained, and, know what they're doing and take care of our problem. So I think that the most vital aspect is the public can trust that you're gonna be there, okay? I think probably the second thing is that they gotta trust that you guys and the uniformed personnel are all operating in an effective and efficient manner. We're not wasting any dollars out there. We're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs. We're being productive. So those are, I think, the first two things that come to mind as vital things for the organization.
Jim, a little more.
Go ahead.
All right. So we're currently in a difficult point with our budget. Please explain your experience working with a tight budget and what you can do to improve our budget, or basically your history with working with budgets.
So I've been the chief of Marion County. It was a large fire district, $15 million budget, I think at the time. City of Mount Vernon is a city, so a little bit different with a finance director and that kind of stuff. But in every case, when we went through those cyclic ups and downs, we had to make cuts. In the case of both Marion County, I had to lay off my mechanic, close my shop down for a couple of reasons. They created the shop and had 2 mechanics because we had a bunch of old apparatus. Okay, we got a whole fleet of new apparatus in, and kind of mechanics are kind of like, somebody breaks something, right? Well, this was a pretty big drain on the budget during the course of times that got really difficult. So we started looking at contracting out. It was far cheaper to contract out. In Mount Vernon, I had to lay off I was there 2007, when things really went down. Had to lay off a deputy fire marshal and a public education officer in that department because we had to literally prioritize. And, the city gave the mandate, hey, gotta get rid of a couple of people. I'm not gonna get rid of people on the street. I can't, so we had to do what, the easiest ones, and that was it. In Almsville, I did a completely different thing there. When I came there, they had a chief and an assistant chief and a firefighter mechanic. And that was using up the bulk of their money, okay, and an office manager. So they had 4 paid people. And I came in, and after I was there a few months, I said, you don't need a fire chief, expensive person, and an assistant chief. And so I opted out to take my money. I said, you give me a stipend of $1,200 a month and pay my health insurance and take all the rest of that $100,000 of the chief's salary. And you hire some Chemeketa fire students, degrees, EMT basics or better. They got other firefighter too. So they went from what they were paying one guy 8 to 5 weekdays. So now 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, paying them $20 an hour, which is $5 an hour more than anybody else in the county was paying. They got these students in there, and these people were lined up, couldn't wait to come to work for us. And I worked them 24 hours a week. So one guy would work Sunday, Monday, 12 AM to, or I'm sorry, 6 AM to 6 PM. Another guy would work Tuesday, Wednesday. I would work on Thursdays. I only came in one day a week. My officer manager had all the checks and everything that I needed to do, and that was also board meeting night. So on Thursdays was my day. And then the third guy worked Friday and Saturday. As the firefighter mechanic got hired at a different department, I did the same thing with his position, didn't replace it, and we added more $20 an hour part-timers, so we didn't have to pay benefits. And now today, that little fire department that covers 3,900 people and 12 square miles has people in the station 7 days a week, 6 AM to 10 PM. And it's based on, and no increase in money. And it went from 8 to 5 weekdays to that kind of coverage. So I think that's my proudest accomplishment in how to stretch money, was doing it that way. Now, these are not full-time union people, but they are first step firefighters that are learning how to be professional firefighters, and they're cycling through. None of them were there over a year. They would cycle through, get hired at Tualatin or Hillsborough or somewhere, and everyone that got hired, literally, you know, they called North Lincoln, hired 2 of them, and the third one they just simply called up and said, "Send me your next guy." So, you know, that's a pretty good accomplishment, a pretty good compliment when you turn out that kind of people.
So what do you think others would consider your biggest strength and weaknesses as a fire chief?
And my strength is, I think I don't conform to most boxes. I'm able to look out of the box and say, why don't we do it this way? This is a horribly traditional occupation. And I'm one of these people that I can say, hey, you know, private business does it like this. The cops are doing it like this. Public Works is doing it like this. Why don't we try X? And I'm not afraid to do that. And I think the last 2 departments I was in proved that. Weaknesses, I'm not a detail guy. I depend on staff to collar me in a little bit and say, hey, we can't do that because of X, Y, Z. It's a great dream, but we can't do that. I trust people are giving me the right numbers, and I can tell you this is wrong or this is right. But I trust people in the finance division or the office management to say, you know, I know you want to take this amount of money and go do this, but we can't do that because this is coming down the pipe that I might not see. So strength of that is I trust them. Weaknesses, a lot of times I'll look at something and say, I don't know all the details, but this looks like something we could do with this, you know, and again, I have to depend on others. So while it is a weakness, I definitely tend to corral a whole bunch of people together and work in a collaborative environment versus, I guess if your expectation is that I'm gonna take your budget and go off in my office and come out and tell you, here's how I'm gonna fix it, I'm not gonna do that. These guys in gold badges here and the people in the office, we're gonna sit in a room and we're gonna figure out how to do it. So, because my weakness would be the details in that, the pennies. But we would figure it out for sure.
So here, that's it.
Yeah, you want to know all my questions.
I'm pretty sure I didn't see them.
No, you guys are good?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple. So how would you address the recent paramedic shortages throughout the state coming from an ALS transport agency?
So things in the paramedic business, in my opinion, have changed dramatically. When I was the first paramedic in 1983, we were gods. We could start IVs and give drugs and shock people, and now EMT basics. I mean, even a lay people can grab a defibrillator and shock people, and most of the EMTs can give the diabetic medications and give epinephrine and stuff. All of that when I started was paramedics only. So I think part of that is the paramedics are on ALS specific rigs. We used to scatter the paramedics out everywhere, and now they're kind of on ALS specific rigs, and EMTs are handling a lot of the calls that used to be a one-time, had to be an ALS call. You know, now it's been proven that trauma, get 2 good EMT basics on a trauma and get that person to the hospital fast versus waiting for paramedics to come from, 25 miles away. You know, So I think there's this little difference in what we used to do versus the reality, and paramedics are finding themselves not having the responsibility or having all the I don't want to say the fun, because it's really not fun, but all the interesting parts of the job there used to be. I think a lot of it for the private industry is paid. I mean, some of these guys just work for nothing out there. Firefighter paramedics are usually fairly well compensated, but in the private industry, it's pretty bad. And then, and the colleges can't explain this either. I was just at our Chemeketa Community College, and they're like, man, our enrollment is down. We don't know why nobody's coming to school for this kind of stuff. So, I don't know the real answer behind it. I can just tell you that there's a whole bunch of reasons that things have changed in the industry. Because man, when I went through school, there was a whole bunch of people lined up. You know, they were failing people right and left that probably should have passed it because there were so many people. But it's not that way anymore. Just all jobs, just firefighter jobs. It's difficult to get people. Fire chief jobs to replace me at Omsville. I told them 18 months ago, I sent them a letter, notice of retirement. They went out twice, and finally the board chairman had to step down and take over the chief's job just so I could leave, because I already had tickets to go out to Brazil. So it's not just a paramedic shortage. I think it's industry wide. So.
Okay. And then last one is, given what you know about our department, and obviously we're talking to you, we're gonna talk to the other Roy. We actually have had a conversation with Scout Police Fire as well. Basically, why do you think you'd be a good fit? Why should we choose you?
I think a wealth of experience. This is my 44th year in the business and my 23rd year as a chief. When I was in Mount Vernon, I was also the chief of Skagit County Fire District 1. That was a contract agency. They didn't own any fire stations and they didn't employ any people, but they had a board of directors and we met every month. And Mount Vernon, I was chief of Mount Vernon, we covered Fire District 1. So I was wearing both chief hats, and I would report to their board how many calls we ran in their district and everything. So that was an arrangement, functional consolidation, I guess, without making it a merger. They were still a separate fire district. When I left Marion County, I was the architect of what was the Willamette Valley Fire and Rescue between Marion County and Turner. So these two agencies had come together as a functional consolidation. That fell apart or unrang, I guess, about 5 years later, just due to bad leadership. That should have been a logical merger, and it wasn't. I had cautioned the board when I left there, be careful on who you pick as the next chief, because the wrong guy can screw this up, but it's a good thing. So I think I have a wealth of experience, really wide experience, fire districts, cities, working with councils, working with boards, and in joint organizations. So if you happen to be exploring, should we join up or should we have a consolidation with someone else? Then, I definitely have experience in doing that. I'm not interested in a long-term, I told George, for some reason, I thought that you guys only wanted a 3 to 6 month thing here. Somebody originally had told me they're just looking for a short term. I made my original proposal, but George had called me back and said, no, they want somebody to be there at least a year to get them through their next budget cycle. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. It made a different proposal to them, but I think, if you're looking for somebody with a lot of experience in multiple different agencies and career people, volunteers, part-timers, I've had experience with all of it, so.
Okay. Anything else, John? Good, Brian?
I'm good. With that last part you said, if we were interested, you would be able to then negotiate that contract amount that you proposed.
I'd be open to that. One thing I would throw out to you, I'm not dependent on this as a job for money. So I would be more than willing to defer any compensation to the next budget year. So in other words, if you pick me up now, next November 15th, you could pay out my contract. I don't need a monthly paycheck. So
Okay.
I would much rather offer that than have tight budget. You guys have to afford somebody else, pretty expensive guy, and then somebody on the street has to squeak. So, yeah, if you wanted to work some sort of contract out and defer it to another budget year, I'm willing to do it.
Open negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's all we got. Thank you very much.
Cool. Should I leave or stay?
No, you can hang out. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to.
All right.
Yeah, we just, since you guys didn't see the questions ahead of time, we want to make.
No, I just wondered if you're gonna address this again, or we're just done.
I don't think we're gonna make any decisions tonight. I
Okay,
think we're
then
not.
I'll just leave. That's, unless you have any.
Thank you for coming.
No,
You bet.
no. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
All right, same questions. One.
I'm Austin.
Yeah. Zimbrick. Right. Well, me. Replacer. I am totally not. Got it. Took notes.
Good job.
Oh, I did bring some, I took my resume and just summarized it, make it a little easier to kind of go through it without going all that historical BS that goes along with a resume.
Thank you.
You care that. Yes.
That's good.
All right, so I'll ask, can you tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally?
Certainly. Let's start with personally. Let me see, I'm 73 years old. I'm a football commissioner. I just finished my 48th year as a football commissioner or official and 18th year as a commissioner. I live on a golf course. I play golf probably 5 days a week during the right kind of weather. Grandkids, sons all live in the Roseburg area, so really involved with my family. You know, don't do a lot of traveling. My wife and I live in a home that we built after I retired, and so pretty sedentary in Roseburg unless I do one of my projects. Professionally, started in the early 70s, right out of the military, went to work for Fire District 2. Stayed with them until I think I left there in 96 to go to Polk 1 as a fire chief there. Finished my career there. While there as fire chief, I had an opportunity to be president of Oregon Fire Chiefs. I really like being involved at a state level. And so I went through the chairs there and spent some time there. Interesting enough, when I was fire marshal, I was president of Oregon Fire Marshals as well. So I really like being involved on a state level and getting involved. Left Polk 1 at the end of my career. It was time based on PERS. They kind of tell you when you should kick it loose. So I kicked it loose. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from then the fire chief of Tualatin Valley and Mr. Blitz called me and said, "Hey, Willamina needs some help." And there's the start of the interim work. I went to Willamina and they were in disarray. I had to go to the Indian tribe and borrow money from the Indian tribe because they didn't get a TAN and they couldn't meet budget. And I went to one of their towns wealthy and said, "Can I borrow money?" And he said, "Sure." And so I borrowed from the tribe and for him, we got him going and got him back up to speed. And I started doing that and then got asked by ESCI, Emergency Service Consulting, to work with them. I traveled around the United States for, I think, about 13 years with them, doing basically what we're doing is consolidation, feasibility studies, or organizational analysis. And I kind of got tired of the travel and special districts said, "How would you like to just stick in Oregon?" So I went to work for special districts, focusing on board training. By that time, I had become a board member for Fire District 2 and for a local volunteer fire department. Got involved with special districts doing board training and organizational analysis and interim work. And I did a number of projects for them. And then later on, Western Fire Chiefs nabbed me and said, "Hey, why don't you broaden your scope?" And they ended up sending me to Washington and California. So my resume kind of speaks to what I do professionally. I've had an opportunity to do a number of these projects. So with that, I'll probably address some of it a little bit later, but I suspect in the questioning process, I'll be able to speak a little bit more about kind of what I bring to the table.
Okay. Why would you be a good fit for the position of interim fire chief for Columbia River Fire and Rescue?
Well, you could come up with all kind of buzzwords and I could do it, but I think when George got a hold of me, he said, hey, your skill set is exactly what they're looking for. I'm very analytical. I'm a working bee. And I just love our business, absolutely love our business. And I kind of look at that as I've got something I can give back now. Am I the perfect fit? Well, Roy and I think we were neighbors when we were in Marion County and Polk County, but I just love what we do. If I can help, I want to. I'm retired. This has been good to me. And so now I have an opportunity to give some of this experience and what I've gained back to the business. I've done as much research as the online will let me do about your situation. Every project I went to had some things that made it special. You've got a few, but you'll get none of them fixed if you don't get started. You're just not going on. I mean, you gotta roll up your sleeves and get after it. And I think I'm that guy. I think my personality, I'm really a get along kind of guy. I'm a pretty matter of fact though, but that's what's made me very successful. So, I really want to embed myself in the community. I want to move up here and stay here for the project. My wife's in the car right now as we speak. I mean, it's a 4-hour trip up here. We got up here this morning and went and looked as much stuff as we could look at and said, you haven't ever lived until you've gone to Cle Elum, Washington. I spent 6 months in Cle Elum. I wasn't very long, and now there's snow up here. Yeah, I don't need Cle Elum again. Nice department, didn't like the snow. When I was in Vista, California, much nicer weather-wise, but traffic sucked. I hated it. So anyway, that's what I bring. I mean, I think my personality is perfect to kind of blend in here and engage with everybody here and see if I can help you get your feet back underneath you and get you going. So that's what I do.
You kind of answered some of my question. What do you know about Columbia River Fire and Rescue?
Well, I know as much as you can find on the internet. I'm since George got a hold of me, I've been at every one of your board meetings, virtually, to try to learn as much as I can. You got some stuff going on. But my job here is to, I kind of look at my job here is to provide some stability, kind of get the organization, okay, take a deep breath. What happens is when you go through all this much turmoil, people kind of, I don't know if they lose focus, but it just like a heart and VFib, it's pumping, but we're not getting any blood pumped out. And so you've got some issues going on. I don't think I'm going to solve those issues, but what I think I can do is get to the root causes of why we got where we were and see if we can't develop some strategies to ensure that kind of stuff doesn't happen in the future. That's past. I can't do anything about the past. What I can do is ensure that we don't repeat the past. That's what I can help you set and put in place. So that's kind of what I do.
Position, what strategies would you employ in the first month when we're doing?
Well, you talk about strategy, and I try to address a little bit of that in my objectives and goals, but I think my primary goal is get in here, get to know the system, provide some stability, provide my type of leadership, really get to know the organization, understand its delivery model, how it works, engage with the community. I think my biggest goal is going to be is build trust. You're not going to get anything if you don't trust that I can do what I can do. If the bargaining unit doesn't trust that I haven't got their best interest at heart, if the volunteers don't believe that I'm here on their behalf, and if the community doesn't believe that I'm here to make sure that I serve them well, then I'm not going to be successful. So that first month, I'm going to be glad-handed and getting to know the place and looking at everything you have. Always, I kind of look at it this way. I look at an organization and I try to determine what's broken, fix it. What's working well, enhance it. And what else needs to be done, develop it. So first off, better take a look, see what we need to stop doing. I'm not saying you do, but this is, and I'll say this one time, and you know, this is not my first one of these. Every one of them's got things that you see, and the third party has no skin in the game, can come in and look with a completely different set of eyes and say, "Oh, why do we do this? Why are we here? What happened? How do we get here?" And you'll find out, well, this, and you know, pretty soon you've got a situation. So that's kind of what I do, so.
What do you consider the most vital aspect of a fire department, district or department?
Vital, the people, staff. We have to have well-trained, well-supported people in the organization that can go out there and provide great customer service. We need to take care of our folks. That's our number one resource. We can buy new fire trucks, we can do a lot of different things, but if we don't keep our folks working happily, comfortable, appreciated, you're just not gonna get a full benefit out of an employee. You're just not. Not, again, I'm just sharing with you my view. I have no idea what's going, that wasn't in all the internet stuff I was able to research. I don't know what's going on here. And I don't want to imply that that part's broken, but that's so important. You know, I did ask, well, thank you very much for letting me change my clothes in your fire station over here. But I asked about your volunteers. When I went to work for Polk One, when they brought me on board, they were all volunteer delivery model. And they asked me to convert it to a combination model. We have to understand an organization that's been volunteer for many, many, many years. I was all excited about paid guys now taking their fire trucks out, by the way. But you had to be able to show them the value and how they were part of that delivery model. And our paid guys had to show respect, and that had to work, and it does work. It doesn't sound like you have a lot of volunteers. It's getting more difficult and more difficult to keep volunteers on board. But I think as our people, that's our number one resource, is our folks.
So we're currently at a difficult point in our budget. Please explain your experience working with a tight budget, what you could possibly do to improve our budget.
Well, I did look at your budget. I went online, took a look at your budget, and took a pretty good look at it, you know, and you went through a budget process. So what I need to do now is sit down with your financial, I think it's Chief Sanchez, and really talk about how it's developed. What is, again, what's the root cause? What happened here? When you approved the budget and adopted it in June, okay, for July 1st, it should have been balanced. I mean, I've done budgeting classes for OFDDA, so I understand budgeting completely, but until I really can look and see what the root cause, why did we get here? What happened? Because, to be honest with you, I'm gonna be very frank, I can't figure it out. It works pretty good. I mean, when I was in California, I had a $57 million budget. In a Polk, I had over $1 million budget. It works, but you can't spend more than what you bring in. And what happened? And what happened do you guys use TANs?
We did.
Okay, you were before? See, that's what happened when I was up at Grand Ron or at Little Mina. They failed to get a TAN, and all of a sudden they didn't have any money, and they were so you went through the process. Did you get with special district or anybody and get involved in TANs? Because usually you blend with other organizations, you get a pretty good rate on your TANs. So I don't know if you use that or not.
We did, and then we were told that we were good and didn't need TANs because of our ending fund balance, and we ended our TANs.
Yeah, that ending fund balance, that you have equipment reserve.
Used
Okay,
to.
well, anyway, you can use equipment reserves, TANs, everything to operate for the first till taxes come in, which I just paid mine the other day. So the 15th, you'll start getting revenue in, and I understand your revenue. And I'm not trying to beat around your question, but I understand that the loan you got from the county, or the money you got from the county, that they're going to be repaid right directly out of your first deposit come from the county. Yes.
So it's a loan through a bank, the county's gonna pay off the first tax collection, they're gonna pay that.
Pay the loan.
Yep, so that's,
Okay.
yeah, that's not a, I mean, it's been characterized in the paper as revolving, as a line of credit. It's not, it's a one-time loan.
Yeah. And typically a 10, and I'm not trying to educate you, but a 10, you get to keep it for the entire year. And you can make interest off it, and then you only have to give it back at the very end of the year. So actually, it's a pretty good program. So again, I don't know. Again, I'm gonna have to find out. I have to ask some questions. I do understand budgets, but I'm gonna have to get to the bottom. What has to happen is that first 6 months, it has to be mission critical spending only. After that, when revenue comes in, now you can spend money that's not mission critical. Now you do the stuff because you got tax money. But for that first 4 months, 4.5 months, you're dealing with your bank account, really, your unappropriated fund balance, that money you carried over from year to year to year. At Polk One, I had an equipment reserve. And so I could borrow from my equipment reserve. And so that's how we function, but same methodology, so.
It's you, Ryan.
Okay. What do you think others would consider your biggest strength and weakness as a fire chief?
I think my biggest strength is my personality. I really have been able to really get along with people. I think that, and I'm about as analytical and as anal as you want to be, and I'm a workaholic. What's a weakness? Not that I don't have them. Well, my wife says it's like I take on every problem, even though you didn't create it, but it is a weakness because that's how you solve problems. You absorb the problem and now you've taken ownership. And so that's probably a weakness, but for me, I look at it as a strength because now I put my own skin in the game and I really didn't need to, but I need to because that helps me be successful. So I don't know. Not as a chief, well, I guess, other than that, my short game is not as good as I wish it were, but.
I appreciate that.
I don't mean to make light, but again, that, you're seeing what, this is me. This is what I do, this is how I behave and, you know. Not that I'm Mr. Jokester, but I like to have a good time and really get engaged in what I do, so. Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple last questions here. So how would you address the recent paramedic shortage throughout the state coming from an ALS transporting agency? I see you've managed a few of those as chief.
Yeah, I want, one of the things we did, in Vista, and we're starting to see it, I did the same thing in Pendleton. We started using single roll, but we did it down in Vista, we brought in 2 BLS cars, to take the pressure off our ALS folks. But part of it is systemic. It's more than just, is our paramedics and our people getting into the system. Our people are getting burnt out. I don't know what your wall time here is. I talked to your folks and I think your Rainier station goes across the river, but the guys at St. Helens have to go into Portland. So I don't know what their downtime is, but that's hard and that's hard. Their unit utilization time gets longer and longer. They're just constantly in, and so it's hard on our paramedics and our folks. The answer is it's bigger than you and I. It's the system needs to change how it works, how people engage in the system, how people use the system. We have people using the system that we've got to figure out how we don't have to transport them, how we can get them care differently, that we don't encumber an entire station on a call that may or may not even be transported. If it is, probably didn't need to be. And there's a lot of models out there that people are trying to go to right now. But I think we have to, as an organization and as an industry, we have to start looking at how we can continue to provide that service, but not be so encumber so much of our time and our staff and our folks. Because every time that medic unit gets committed, that medic unit also, they swing here, right? They should be run in the engine as well. So now that engine is down 2 folks. Now they don't have a 4-person crew anymore. They've got a 2-person crew. Now their level of delivery is now changed. I mean, there's just a lot engaged there. Do I have a perfect answer? I wish I did. I'd be making a lot of money. But I don't, other than I know that it's pretty significant in our industry, so.
Okay, and the last one I have is, obviously, we're interviewing you, the other Roy, we've had a conversation with Scappoose Fire.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, why should we choose you?
Well, you know, I'm gonna address a couple things in listening to your board meetings and I want to address something. I know one time it was said that you can't afford us. And my bid was exactly what you're paying your fire chief. So if you're gonna have a fire chief, you're gonna be paying, that money is exactly what you're paying the current fire chief. I really want to live in a fire station here and not have to rent. I want to live here with my wife, my 2 dogs and my cat. And so you're gonna get somebody who's gonna come here and engage 100% in what's going on here. That's what you're gonna get from me. You're gonna get somebody who not only knows the chief business, the fire marshal business, but I've been a board of directors for 21 years. I'm gonna be a resource to you. I can give you training that I gave all over the state of Oregon. I can help you get to speed. I think that was one of the things you guys were talking about at one of your meetings. You were about to get some training, so I can be that resource for you. I'm a hands-on chief. All you need to do is point in the right direction. I got it. You can go back to doing what directors do. I got it. And so you can rely on me to be your guy. Everything will go through me to you. But you should be able to relax and be directors and spend your time in board meetings and outside board meetings. I got it. I got it. That's what I do. That's what your fire chief should do. And I'm not saying your other fire chief didn't, but I'll tell you, that's what I will be doing. So.
Great, okay. You have the last one
Oh, yeah, that's last.
Sally.
Oh, about your proposal negotiable. You know,
Well,
we sit down.
to a certain degree, what that is I just took your budget and looked what you're paying your chief. I got to live up here.
I heard you mention there, living in the fire.
I drove up there today. I peered in all the windows. I took a look at it. I drove around back. I couldn't see too much.
Yeah.
But I talked to George what I did is that money I put in there, we looked online and said, what's gonna cost to rent up there? I'd rather not do it that way. When I was in Vista, I stayed in what's called a caretaker's cottage out at a sports park. Interesting place. Hundreds and hundreds of people there till 10 o'clock at night when they all close the gates and I'm by myself. You know, I've done it a number of different ways, but, the other thing I put in there was, I need to go back and forth to Roseburg about every 2 weeks, you know,
Sure.
How do I say this and not cut my own throat? I'm retired. I'm okay. But I know you don't want me to come here and work for nothing. I mean, that's not what it's all about.
We want your guidance.
Here, I'll speak a little bit more. And now I'm giving counsel, probably I shouldn't, but right now, the way you're functioning, what's happening is if you're using, and I'm pretty sure you are, your deputy chief and your financial chief are kind of sharing the load of being the fire chief, kind of, sort of. But when that happens, then they can't really get all their job done. It's hard to do all those jobs at the same time. And so getting somebody like myself or whether Mr. Hari on board is going to relieve them and I can help give them guidance. I can help give you guidance. I can be the consultant that I am. I can be the director that I've been. I can be the interim chief that I've been. I don't know what else. I mean, I got a lot of tools in my tool chest. And so as far as money goes, I'm not gonna work for nothing, but that, you know, but that's not what this is about. You know, you have to decide as an organization, what you really want from a scope of work, and that would be my question, if you ask me mine, is I really want to be very specific with you guys about a scope. What do you want me to accomplish? What do you see as you really want me to go after and do? If it's just keep the door open, you don't need me to keep the door open. You don't. You got folks that can keep the door open. If you want to start addressing some of the issues going on, I would suggest, whether it's me or Mr. Hari or one of these other folks, get some help. Because that's kind of what we do. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. That's all we got.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate give me a chance to, I'm gonna see a wonderful little. Bourbon. I found out this when we're sitting in the car, going, coming through Portland to get here was just atrocious. Go across the bridge here and hit I-5. Is that how you guys do it? To go back to, I gotta go back to Roseburg.
That's all. That's all I got.
Yes.
Go back across the bridge, hit I-5.
You don't wanna go.
The same track.
Thanks, chief.
Yes.
Nice meeting you, sir. Guys, thanks for being kind to me today. I appreciate it.
That track.
This way out, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
You bet.
Yes, get organized a second. Yeah, very informing. Sure. Yeah, that was good.
We have to make you have to do an addition to the agenda, is that correct?
Yeah, we got
Yes.
real quick one.
Motion.
And again,
That'd be the addition to the agenda.
yeah, we need to add it to the agenda.
Yep, that'll be,
A contract with,
Tim.
CT Enterprise.
CT Enterprises.
You wanna give us an overview of that?
hold on a second, we'll get there.
Okay. Yeah. I know. You got it.
We have a motion to change that agenda, do that?
I'll second. Or you want me to make the motion?
Yes, we have a motion, so go ahead and make it.
Yeah.
And what was the company? CT.
CT Enterprise.
Okay, I'll make a motion to look over the contract with CT Enterprises.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion a second to look over the contract for CTA. Is it
CT Enterprise.
CT Enterprises. Any discussion?
You have.
I've got copies too, Austin.
Okay, no other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Can we do that way?
No, this is just.
About adding it to the agenda.
We're just adding to the agenda.
No, and we'll hang on, to it. We're gonna go through the others first.
Okay.
This is just adding to the agenda. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, I'm gonna put that under the business. It's gonna be, item D. So right now, we're gonna move on to item B, which is legal counsel.
So I make a motion that we put out an RFP for, general legal counsel.
I'll second.
Okay, motion second, discussion.
I think that we've put out an RFP for general legal counsel, and I think we, it doesn't have to be 14 pages long or anything crazy, but we just need to, with, Aiken retiring and that uncertainty, I think that we need to interview partly so we can keep our costs down and our costs down and try to find, that replacement, so. And I think we should do it now while we still have Aiken. That way we go through the interview process, so we're not rushed into making a bad decision.
President House, can I give some information for you guys? Is it at this point regarding the RFP?
Yes.
So, the last board meeting that was discussed, right? And so I took it upon myself to start preparing an RFP. I found, put one together. Again, I'm not an attorney. So I sent it to a legal counsel for review. So the RFP is currently at legal. It does require a substantial amount of information in there. It can't be as easy as I thought it was gonna be. There's a lot of information that needs to be put in that. And so, Board Laws currently has it. They are also gonna provide us with, they, stated probably 6 to 8 firms that specialize in public departments, i.e., labor, not necessarily labor law, but contract review, and that specialize basically in fire department related stuff that we were gonna have. So they're gonna find some firms as well that we can send directly to the RFP. They're recommending 45 days because it is 45. So once that's been approved or that they've completed it, we can open up an RFP and put it out. We can send to those firms. We can advertise in the paper. And at what such point, we'll collect whatever ones we get. And then at that point, the board of directors would get the chance to interview and decide which direction you guys would like to go. So there is one that I did that has been sent to legal and they are currently reviewing it.
Thank you. I think it keeps everybody on board and maybe Aiken budgets just his rates, you know, keep everybody on toes.
I think it's a lot of things to consider, travel time. What is their, what's their retainer fee? Experience, all that kind of stuff. I agree.
Yeah, I'm just looking at calendar here. So if we did a 45-day, put it out, probably that falls right around holidays. And then, so sometime in the first year, I'm still hesitant, and I think I've said this before, I'll say it again, with all the stuff that we're going through of changing courses, mid-race. It makes me a bit nervous on that. And then, or the other option for that is paying for another attorney while we're still paying to board law to bring that person up to speed is almost doubling our bill. So that I have a couple, not cautions, but a couple things that make me think about this a little bit.
Well, I think that like what you just brought up, that sounds like one of the questions that should come up when we would interview these potential lawyers, right? We're like, hey, what do you think? How long do you think it's gonna take you to get caught up to speed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt to look. Yeah, but yeah, I just, no, definitely not, definitely don't want to rush into anything.
So to further, I will reach out to board law next week and find out if they have the final, with the list of those vendors. If the board is okay with it, then we immediately put it out and send it out and advertise in the paper. I'll notify you guys via email that that's occurred, and then the clock will start. And then once we receive those, we probably have to have a special meeting for you guys to review and decide how you'd like to proceed.
President Niles,
Yes.
one way you could do that transition is, your current legal takes care of pending stuff right now. And then whoever you would hire for your, future legal would take care of like new items only. That's one way to do a transition without incurring costs of getting somebody caught.
Yeah, I think that definitely things we're talking about. But I think we gotta get the RFP out first, and then we all agree that.
So sounds like it's been done, so thank you for taking that upon yourself. Do we need to vote on this again? It's already been taken care of since we did it last meeting.
We do have a motion on the floor though, to authorize that to go out and look for that position. So yes, we do have a motion currently on the floor. Any further discussion?
That was a good discussion.
I just, for clarification, once we vote on this and we say yes, then as soon as it comes back, you're automatically gonna put it out.
Correct.
So we don't have to come back and ask us for a version.
And then, well, I will email the board and let you guys know that it started effective this date. We start the clock. I'll tell you what day it's gonna close. And that way you guys have an idea when we're gonna probably need a special meeting.
Sounds good. And that means we don't have to readdress it again. We also, obviously we don't have to hire anybody either.
No, it's just looking.
Yeah, okay. Any other further discussion? That further information, gentlemen, you have?
Sure.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Next item on the agenda is the St. Paul Station restroom upgrade RFP draft.
Okay, so gentlemen, I sent you an email today with information from Boley. They had looked at it. We are in the process of, we completed the RFP. We're going to send, we sent it to Boley for them to review, ensure that we meet the language requirements. We're just waiting for them to return. Once that's done, we're gonna ask legal to review it again. Obviously, we don't want to, step on a Boley issue again. And so we want to make sure that all of our i's are dotted and t's are crossed. And so once Boley has returned that to us, to give us their, I wouldn't say blessing, but at least their review of it, then we're gonna have legal review. And then we would do the same thing. Along that line, we do not want to start it until we receive our tax revenue. Because once we engage a contractor for that, we want it repaired, we have to be able to pay it. And so we want, so anyway, the prevailing rate RS 279C dash, or 0.840, obviously that has to be in there. We looked at some other, we looked at Gladstone, which I gave you guys a brief look at what I took off Gladstone's website. Gladstone has everything like lined out, and we're looking to do very similar, that the contractor can pick any one of those. In there also, there will be a time for the contractor a week or two out from the close date that they can come do a walkthrough of the facility and get it so they can finalize their bid. And so again, we want to make sure that Boley actually reached out to us and offered that. So it has been sent to them. As soon as we get it back from them, we're going to send to legal. Legal hopefully won't need it for a day or two, and then we can launch that RFP as well.
And then I gotta give you the, websites for it, right? That list.
And if you look on there, it does list also the two,
Yeah.
yes, so Oregon, yeah, the two hyperlinks. So yes, they're gonna be there. We'll still advertise in the paper. And, so we're gonna hit as many as we can, but yes, we can use those two links as well.
So there's DJC, there's, I'll send you.
Yeah, once you send them the list offline of people that are in that business.
That would get it out there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll get to as many as possible. Okay, anything else on RFP? Thank you for doing that. Make sure that we don't repeat past mistakes.
The only thing that I'm gonna say is calling it an upgrade, can we call it a repair? Because basically we're repairing the line. We're not, it's not, I don't want the public to think that, we're financially in turmoil potentially, right? Obviously. So I don't want the public to say, oh my gosh, because it could get interpreted of we're upgrading, like putting in, all sorts of new stuff. When essentially we're spending this money that we all understand we have to, but make sure that we're fixing a leaky sewer line, drink water. But then just made it as a repair instead of an upgrade. I think that would be.
And we can change that language. So if you want us to add that to your email and just make it, and I'll make sure that gets changed on language. We do have another issue that, separate, that we have an issue with Station 2. We had a company come out and look at it yesterday, potential mold issue. And so we're going to probably be receiving bids on that as well. That once CRFR gets done looking at what we're going to need to do, we'll be probably talking at November 14th meeting. Hopefully we'll have something back from it by then.
Is that something insurance covered though?
It's apparently, no, it's just old pipe. I mean, the building's 50 some odd years old now, so it's just stuff starting to fail. The pipe's been repaired, but water did leak, and we don't know what's behind the wall, because of, the age of the building and the potential of asbestos. It's gotta be handled differently than just us punching a hole in the wall, and putting a blower in there. So it's gonna have to be a company that handles that.
Yeah, the CRFR does a good job. So that basically they find out there's mold in there and from it leaking forever, then they'll get it, rip it all out, spray whatever they gotta do, and then at that point, it's just sheet rock back, right? It shouldn't.
Well, that's what we're waiting for, is yes. And so again, there was a test done before. It said that there was potentially asbestos in the sheetrock. They are going, that's be part of their bid, is they're gonna test it again, because we know the tile, the floor and the ceiling is, but I question the sheetrock. So again, we're just making sure.
It's the mud. They use the sheetrock.
And it could be. So they are testing that.
Okay, we're getting a little off topic, so let's get back right here. Anything else on the St. Paul restroom station RFP?
No.
Okay. All right, so item D, that we added, the contractor services for CT Enterprises. Chief Smythe. Excuse me.
Chief Cole's gonna speak to it. It's a contract that we're requesting with, former Lieutenant Hennigan, and Chief Cole's gonna explain to you why this is important for the district.
I think we need a couple more of their.
Yep.
This isn't a large contract, but nonetheless, it's contract, so I thought it was important to bring it to the board. Good. Did you get one? Cal?
I got this copy.
Okay.
We're good.
You're good? We're good. All right. So I thought it was also important to kind of tell you, what is this for? And what this is the NIMSIS 3.5 transition. We're going, what the heck is that? That's okay. So the NIMSIS is a national effort to standardize data collection by EMS agencies, and that's across the nation. And I'm not gonna read it to you verbatim, but I provided this for you to review. But this is how they come up with standards of care for EMS, basically, right? Well, and part of the NIMSIS reporting on the last item here on the back page, what are the consequences of non-compliance? So the state of Oregon, the health division, collects all the data from their EMS agencies, and then they ship it off to the national reporting agency. But reporting to ORS is required by statute rule for licensed transporting agencies, ORS 682.056-1A 333-250-0310. So basically, if they say that we have to update, we gotta update. And again, this is across the board. The timeline is we needed an update by December 31st. The beauty of it, what makes it convenient is Mr. Hennigan, Tim, he used to work here. This is what he was working on when he left. Okay, when he retired, he left, not in the middle of it, but he left about 90% work completion. So he needs to come back and complete it. And this is kind of what he's doing. He's been working for Scappoose and Klatskanai part-time on some compliance issues and stuff. And this is a little bit different. So the NIMSIS is Columbia River Fire and Rescue is like the parent organization, and then Klatskanai and Scappoose are underneath that. So kind of what we do helps them, but the work that he's doing for us isn't necessarily for them. He works for them separate. His rate's $60 an hour. I asked him, I said, I need an hour. Like what is it gonna take maximum?
Yeah.
40 hours. So that's $2,400 to get the work done. And most of it, honestly, it's from computer at home. You know, I mean, like he doesn't come in. One of the other requirements of the contract is if he does have to come out, there's a standard mileage rate that we'd have to pay, and that's like common practice for contractors. Pretty much that's it. Just a simple contract with the terms. You know, if there's other work that we would want him to do, I told him that, you know, we'll cross that bridge. But this one, we're on a time deadline. That's why I wanted to add it to this meeting, just so he could get started. Sure. So.
Makes sense. So he's qualified, obviously, to do it.
Yeah.
He did obviously 90% of it already, so.
He did. Yeah, and I mean, so the image trend software that we're using, him and Dave Coombs rolled it out. I mean, they rolled it out over like 2 years. So they've kind of became experts in the image trend. And, you know, I mean, like if you're sitting there going, geez, you know, Jerry, why don't you do it? It's just not my wheelhouse right now. I want to go take some image trend training. But I mean, it's a lot of training to learn that. And in the time that I've been in this position, it's not my wheelhouse to do, if that makes sense.
Well, obviously, it has to get checked off of our list, right?
It does.
Let's get it
Yeah.
checked off the list.
Right. So, like I said, $2,400. It's a contract, so I wanted to come to the board. So, just looking for your approval. And if you have any questions, do you have any questions?
I do not. Well, the second motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with the CT Enterprises to complete the analysis transition at the contract rate.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the contract with CT Enterprise at the contract rate and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
All right, thank you.
All opposed? All right, thank you. That's all items there. Board members' comments, starting down there with, let's start here with Rick.
Well, I really appreciate those you guys coming and talking to us tonight. And we think they have some stuff they can offer us. We need to do some discussion about that. See what we can work out. So.
Right?
I also thought it was very helpful for having them. Sometimes, you get focused on one thing. I do like his idea, reaching out for at least advice and things like that. And, that's one thing throughout this process that I think that you really have done is I feel like Chief Smythe has reached out and talked to Scappoose and hopefully, listening to what these two gentlemen had to say. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's all good. You know what I mean? Getting knowledge and ideas, thinking outside the box. I think that both of the guys had a great idea. But one thing I would say about I thought this, and I didn't think about it before, but the Lori Hari talked about the idea of outsourcing the mechanic services. I think that would be something worth checking into or debate, or ways to save money. That kind of makes sense, especially if we really truly, you have to go for a bond or anything like that. I guess, you have to exhaust all that.
Can I go back? On my comment?
Sure.
I actually kind of knew Roy Harry back when Marion County opened up a training center down there because we, Fire Mechanics Association rented it. Marion County still owned it. And I know that they went through, Marion County lost a portion of their fire district to the city of Salem. It was annexed into the city as urban growth boundary. So Marion County lost a financially large portion of their district. It was about industrial property. And that's why they ended up selling that training grounds to Chemeketa. And maybe that's something we ought to look at, the PCC with our training grounds. PCC has talked about building training grounds a while back in Scappoose. Maybe we could offload some of the cost of that training grounds with PCC and work out an agreement like Marion County did with Chemeketa down there. And help us on our budget too. Maybe that's something to look at in the future, I think.
We need to look at everything.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was just gonna think both of the guys coming down, driving down, driving a trip. Probably discuss that more next meeting, but I would say just think about what they said. I don't know what to do next, that's gonna, what you guys, how that works about talking to them again, a little bit how that stuff works, but
I think we sit on,
sleep on it.
yeah, sleep on it, and then we're having another board meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we make them pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look at everything. That's,
Yeah.
how. Good.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have to look at all options. It was good to hear both of them. Gave me some things to think about. That I did not think about before I sat down tonight. So, which is good. So some things considered. One point that stuck out for me is, what do we actually need? Where do we need to help? What do we actually need? And trying to figure that out. Yeah, like what are our goals and objectives of how we're doing, where we want to go, and how do we get there? But yeah, some interesting thoughts and ideas. So.
Did we ever get any answer back from the gym band on an update of when that's gonna be complete?
Mr. Band met with union members yesterday. He stopped by the office and what I told you guys before was your November 14th meeting. You probably definitely want to start it early, prepare it like 5:30. He would like to talk to you guys in executive session and bring you up to date on that. SDO wants to talk to you in executive session, and we have RFP for the audit companies. So there's gonna be extensive, executive session. My recommendation would be that you start at 5:30, go into executive. That way maybe we can be done with those portions about the time the regular board meeting starts. And then, Jeff Griffin from SDL wants to come and do a class with you guys for about 30-45 minutes. I don't think we have much other topics on there for the November meeting, but
You have the board, the vacant board position, right?
yes, and we'll have those, but again, the ones that you guys have to go in executive for is the contract for the auditor. And then SDO wants to talk to you about the lawsuits that are pending, and so they want to brief you guys of that, and then Mr. Band is requested to do the same thing in executive session.
Okay, yeah, we got,
We schedule it for 5:30 then.
yeah, we'll work with Chief Smythe to get that agenda out, in time and set it for 17:30. Cool. All right. Cool. Thank you, everybody.